Welcome back. Well, I got something very interesting from Colleen Staver for my birthday this past week, and I thought I would share it with everyone on the channel because this is Art Deco. The book in question is American Art Deco, and as you can see from the cover, oh yeah, Art Deco. And there are some gorgeous pictures in here, so I think we're going to get a chance to take a look at some interesting, not often seen Art Deco images and to get a special feel for American Art Deco. And as we've discussed before, it is not the same as European Art Deco. So, when we come back, this book is primarily true Art Deco, the Art Deco that came to America from Europe. However, there are some very American elements in the book, and I wanted to take a moment because we've spoken about this before. American Art Deco, and it's a particular variety of Art Deco. It's often called Streamline Moderne or Art Moderne, was very heavily influenced by the transportation industry. And this book has a couple of great examples of that influence. Notice here, now these are part of the door of a bank building in New York. And take a look. Here we have airplanes, we have a steamship, and over here, and this is from a different building, we have a locomotive. And this was a mailbox for the lobby of yet another building. This is one of the key features of American Art Deco, Streamline Moderne, Art Moderne. And because this is a book about American Art Deco, we may expect to see more along this line. Now, this is Art Moderne images presented in an Art Deco style. So I have to be careful about that. Streamline Moderne is a little different. It's a subset of Art Deco. It came from Art Deco, but it has a uniquely American spin. Most of the Art Deco in this book is what I would consider to be more pure Art Deco, more heavily influenced by the European. Nevertheless, I thought we really should take a quick look at this just because it's so rare for us to get these wonderful American transportation images. This is the transom grille from the Circle Tower above the main entrance door, and that's in Indianapolis. Beautiful example of the Egyptian influence in Art Deco. And we did a project not too long ago using a vase, and it had been turned into a lamp and we just restored it. So it was Egyptian Art Deco. Now, that was a big subset of Art Deco, Egyptian Deco. The reason for that is, of course, Tut's tomb was discovered just as Art Deco was catching on. So, as a consequence, these two things hit the popular culture together, and naturally, one was going to be incorporated into the other. This is really terrific. It's just beautiful metalwork grill. You can see all of the very Egyptian images, but notice the way they are expressed in a very Art Deco sort of style. This is lovely. And once again, the great thing about this book is we're going to get to see images and the sorts of images we just don't see very often. This is another such image. This is from the St. Paul City Hall, and as you can see, very classically Egyptian in so many ways. We have the little scythe and the sheaves of wheat. We have the traditional Egyptian costuming. Very, very Egyptian, identifiably so, but also very, very Art Deco. And once again, this is a great image, but we do not get to see these very often. This is another great example of Art Deco borrowing from other non-Western cultures. This is the Mayan theater in California, and as the name would imply, the Art Deco design is heavily borrowed from the Mayan culture, but it's interpreted through that Deco lens. So let's take a closer look at this so that you can see. Definitely Mayan and definitely Art Deco. The author's notes indicate that this was probably not painted originally. I hope I'm understanding that correctly. But regardless, I think the painting really suits the design very well and makes many of the details stand out much better than it would if, in fact, it hadn't been painted. And they've done a wonderful job of painting it. As you can see, we have all of our Art Deco colors. I wouldn't exactly say we were dealing with the jazz colors, and I will point them out to you when we come across images that are Jazz Age Art Deco. But still, I think this is a wonderful example of how Art Deco took bits and pieces of non-Western culture and just absorbed it, creating this marvelous sort of third thing. Art Deco Mayan equals Mayan Art Deco, which is a bit of both, but it has its own distinct character. This is a train station in Casa Grande, Arizona, and this one has been decorated in cement. It's polychrome cement. And the author says that it was chosen because this was a very inexpensive treatment. Now, what's of interest to us, of course, is not the expense, but the beautiful Art Deco lines in this, and the fact that public buildings in those days are liminal spaces, and we did a video on that not too long ago, were decorated. Obviously, they were trying to cut costs on that, but the level of decoration is just really remarkable in this. This is not the sort of thing we see on buildings today. Beautiful Art Deco styling. I don't think the fact that they were cutting corners financially in any way harmed the design, and in fact, it might have actually contributed to it. This image and the image that follows are from the Irving Trust Company in New York, and these are wonderful because of the subtlety of the design and because of the really great use of these jazz colors. Now, let me slide over to this. This is also the same building. Notice golds, oranges. These were very, very popular colors in that period. They were very strongly associated with Art Deco, the gilding especially. They really did like the use of gold. And it wasn't just the color. It was the reflective qualities they would play with. And of course, again, we've got these, we would call these fall colors. But for them, no, they were jazz era colors. Modern, trendy, although, quite frankly, this seems very old-fashioned to us. For them, this was very much state-of-the-art. Once again, we have more of those autumn colors that were so popular with the Jazz Babies. This is in California. Let's take a look here. Very, very strong deco lines. And again, as I said, that beautiful combination of fall colors. Here's another, same building. And notice, once again, we have, and in this one, we really have virtually all of the jazz era colors. And they are, in large part, the colors of autumn leaves. The greens, the golds. In this case, we have some of the purples. Purples were very common too. The color green, and this is an interesting bit of trivia for those of you who are interested. Green was a very popular fashion color in the late 1920s. And the reason menthol cigarettes to this day are packaged in green has to do with the women's fashion industry. The cigarette manufacturers wanted to make smoking more attractive to women, so they packaged menthol cigarettes, which were largely intended for female consumers, in green, because green would go with the ladies' dresses. Weird, huh? I know, that is just so peculiar, but it does show you that these green colors were the height of fashion back in the Art Deco era. Sunset Tower in Los Angeles. This is Art Deco on a massive scale, and it's beautifully lit to show it off. It's wonderful that they recognize what they have, because so many of the beautiful old Art Deco buildings have already been torn down and replaced by more modern, less interesting structures. But the lighting alone shows us that the folks out in California are clear that this is impressive Art Deco design. And look at that, that is amazing. And as I say, we're talking about Art Deco on a truly massive scale. This is a very large building. It's just, oh my goodness, scrumptious. So yes, we could do Art Deco when we chose. Interestingly enough, and this is fortunate, and I do say fortune because a lot of luck is involved. So many of these beautiful old Art Deco buildings are in California. So many of them were made before anybody really had a sense of earthquake-proofing the structures, which means so many of these are still at risk. Nevertheless, they are keeping them. They are making the effort to conserve these gorgeous buildings, so bravo for them. I don't know. I have a feeling I'm going to have to go on a walking tour of Los Angeles one of these days. This is one of the most famous Art Deco buildings in the world. This is the Empire State Building. And what we have at the top is the Art Deco imagery here. It's beautiful lines in these flanges coming out. Just gorgeous. Now, this spire, as I'm sure many of you know, was originally intended as a docking point for dirigibles. Just sort of fixes it at that point in time when blimps were expected to be crossing the Atlantic Ocean virtually every day. It's beautiful. And of course, as I say, it's the most famous, but we don't often get a chance to see the very intricate detailing up here. The Metropolitan Building in Philadelphia. Deco Wonderland. Beautiful deco shapes. And again, we have those wonderful jazz colors. Very orangey. The golds, the yellows, the oranges, the browns, and often highlighted with little bits of green. Very, very jazz-era coloring. I love the images on the floor. And as many of you will recall from the videos we did about bathroom floors and even kitchen floors, this was a thing people did. They had designs inlaid. They used linoleum in private homes. This is probably marble. And they just had these custom designs put into their flooring. It was a way of bringing a lot of style and pop into something rather ordinary, and we don't do that today. Frankly, look at that. More's the pity. Now, this gem is the RCA building in New York. And wow. The incredible thing about this is, of course, this is very high up off the ground, which means for most people looking up and observing, a lot of this detail is going to be lost simply because the detailing is going to be viewed from so far away down on the ground. But this is just incredible. The workmanship in something like this is amazing. I love the curves and the points and the sweeping lines, and so much of this has an almost Gothic look to it. It's just wonderful. And of course, as I mentioned when we were doing videos on liminal spaces, these are just there for the taking. You just walk down a street and this art is available for you to just look up and view. It's amazing. There was a much stronger sense of engaging the public in the beauty of the architecture in those days. Now, that's not to say that architects are no longer interested in engaging the public, but they're certainly not interested in doing it in quite this dramatic a way. I think this is just fabulous. And again, the Art Deco is here. You can see it. But this is not one of those buildings that you are going to see if you open a Wikipedia page on Art Deco architecture. So that is the great thing about this book. We are seeing examples that we would not have seen otherwise. All right, what we're going to take a look at now is the French building in New York. Now, in this case, French comes from a man's name and not from the fact that the building was from France or anything like that. It's wonderful. this beautiful terracotta stone. It's absolutely magnificent here. Just amazing, amazing Art Deco architecture. And the detailing is just astounding. This is a close-up of a frieze in the building. And as you already know, these are our jazz colors. We are dealing with the oranges, yellows, those beautiful fall leaf colors, offset with green and purple. And I have no idea why purple was such a big deal. Yeah, we kind of understand the gold and green and orange, but purple, oh yes, and they did that a lot. This is just wonderful. Once again, this is beautifully deco, especially these little wave images here. That's just amazing. It is not the building that shows up when you check out random sources for Art Deco architecture. And again, as I say, that's the beauty of this book. We are getting to see things that we don't ordinarily see, which means we are getting to see Art Deco images, and these are Art Deco, make no mistake about it, that are just a little on the less common side. Art Deco for sure, but in many contexts, these are Art Deco images that don't readily spring to our minds when we hear the words Art Deco. And here we have the Chrysler building. And this is shorthand for Art Deco architecture for a lot of us. And I would have to say also streamlined modern architecture. This is a classic example of what Americans did with Art Deco once we got our hot little hands on it. This is just amazing. The amount of work that would go into something like this just boggles the mind. And this is always an important one to keep in the forefront of your mind because it is the classic American Art Deco building. This is also the Chrysler building. This is a set of elevator doors, and it doesn't take very much to look at this and see we have our Art Deco jazz colors, and we have this strong Egyptian styling. And remember, Egyptian motifs were very hot in the Art Deco era. Absolutely beautiful. And because the Chrysler building is considered such a classic of American Art Deco, I thought we would just finish up with this. And here, these are also from the Chrysler building. Again, if we want to see Art Deco, this is where we can go to see it. It is open to the public. These are liminal spaces, as you can see. Gosh, I'm so glad we did a series of videos on these so that you all know what they are and that they are open to you. You can just go in, wander around, and look to your heart's content. These are spaces that were never intended for any other purpose than passing through. And of course, elevator doors. How liminal is that? Here we go, another. Again, the Chrysler building. And as I say, I thought we would conclude here because it is so classically American Art Deco that it pretty much provides a good stopping off point for us. So, I hope you have enjoyed this little tour of Art Deco. Oh, and let me just show you this is how much we've gone through on the book. This is how much there is left. So we're going to be able to have a lot of fun with this and look at a lot of Art Deco images that we've probably never seen before, and frankly, we're not very likely to see. So, have a terrific day. I will see you all tomorrow when we'll take a little more of a look at American Art Deco.